Good afternoon. I'm Domenico Grasso, President of the University of Michigan, and it is my honor to open this preview of our new Center for American Dialogue. I want to welcome everyone here in the theater and those joining us online. We appreciate you being part of this special day in the life of our university. Michigan students bring an extraordinary range of talents to our campus, and we just experienced that with the voices of the Michigan Chamber Choir. Please join me in thanking them and conductor Eugene Rogers for that beautiful performance. I'd also like to acknowledge Sarah Hubbard from our Board of Regents. Thank you for joining us today. We gather today to engage one another on a matter of most fundamental importance to our collective futures as a society: how we speak with and listen to one another. It may appear deceptively simple. Dialogue lies at the very heart of consequential relationships and the vitality of any flourishing community. In its absence, when the exchange of ideas is neither healthy nor respectful, our human experience is diminished, rendered shallow and coarse. It has become almost a cliché to describe universities as a marketplace of ideas. Yet such a characterization scarcely captures their true essence. They are not mere venues for the exchange of preformed intellectual commodities. Rather, they stand at the intersection of temple and crucible, at once sites of reverent regard for the great advances of the past and generative spaces for new creation, where our understanding of the world is forged, refined, and rigorously tested. But in the environment that defines our times, this is not simple. In a highly charged and politicized environment, language moves quickly. It can be damaging, hurtful, ugly, and sometimes blatantly untrue. Too often, we shrug it off as, well, that's the way the world is today. But that thinking has no place here. Universities exist to change the world. We don't believe in complacency. We cannot abandon the importance, indeed the necessity, of the respectful and civil exchange of ideas. It is the foundation of our university and a healthy democracy. Elie Wiesel, the Holocaust survivor and Nobel Peace Prize laureate, endured one of the darkest eras of human history at the hands of evil men. Yet he dedicated his life to the values of empathy and human dignity. He believed deeply in the power of language and dialogue to connect and heal. Listen to what he said, quote, "I continue to cling to words because it is up to us to transform them into instruments of comprehension rather than contempt. It is up to us to choose whether we wish to use them to curse or to heal, to wound or to console. As a university dedicated to the public good, our common ground must be reasoned discourse and civility. I believe we can and must rise to this moment together in ways only Michigan can. One of my priorities as president is for the nation to look to Michigan as a model of robust discourse on critical issues grounded in empathy, reason, and humility. I have always contended that for an institution to demonstrate its priorities, they must be reflected in its budget. That is why we are investing $50 million as a starting point to establish the Center for American Dialogue and strengthen our commitment to diversity of thought and principled discussion. The center represents a lasting commitment to broadening our campus culture by providing a forum that welcomes all perspectives and fosters respectful engagement. Today, we will share our vision and why we believe in its promise, and we will hear from voices representing diverse viewpoints. To share more about our philosophy and approach, I am delighted to introduce Skip Lupia, our Vice President for Research and Founding Director of the Center for American Dialogue. Vice President Lupia is an internationally known scholar on how trust is built and rebuilt. He has held federal leadership positions at the National Science Foundation in both the Trump and Biden administrations, and he is an engaging presenter. Please help me welcome Dr. Skip Lupia.
So April 13th, does anybody know what's significant about that day? Like every day, it is a great day to be a Michigan Wolverine. All right? Yeah. So I want to thank President Grasso for his integrity and for his leadership. And I want to thank all of you for being here. It's an honor to share a theater with you. I also want to thank the amazing team that made this day possible. The team includes university leadership, innovative faculty, dedicated staff, energetic alumni, and amazing students from all three campuses. Thank you so much. In this part of the program, I'm going to describe three things. First, why our country needs a Center for American Dialogue. Second, what the Center for American Dialogue will actually do. And third, why every person in this room is a key to its success. But let's start at the beginning. Universities are extraordinary places. At our hospitals and health systems, universities save lives. In our academic programs, universities inspire learning and create lifelong opportunities. In our athletic programs, universities create great teams and win the Final Four and national champion. No, that's just us. Right. But what all universities do is have great potential to improve quality of life for every person in our state, nation, and world. I think universities are a miracle. I grew up on a farm, and I'm the first person in my family to go to a university. Every day, I'm in awe of places like this, and I know you are too. But we're at a moment when people are asking, why do universities matter? And what can universities do to bring our nation together? As a country, we need this. We need to have this conversation. We have so many good people. We have so many different perspectives. But we need new ways to come together, because we also have division. Turn on cable television or social media. So much of it sows distrust. And we know that some platforms profit by steering people towards division and away from truly listening and understanding. Of course, media does a lot of good things, but its divisive parts are tearing our country's social fabric apart, strand by strand, day by day. We need new ways to strengthen our social fabric. We need ways to listen to one another more respectfully and to work across differences more effectively. These needs create an opportunity, and that opportunity is why we have invited you to this campus at this moment. Today, we introduce the Center for American Dialogue. It is designed to rebuild interpersonal trust. It has the goal of forcefully and respectfully strengthening our social fabric, strand by strand, day by day. Last fall, President Grasso challenged us to take a bold approach. And since then, we've listened to and spoken with hundreds of people. We have also studied what other universities are doing well. We're grateful for what everyone is doing to bring people together. But we also saw some things that are missing, and that is where our real opportunity lies. The Center for American Dialogue will give you the power to listen, talk, and work across differences more effectively. And the center will be guided by 10 principles that we call the Michigan Method. We are externally focused. In particular, we're interested in serving society more effectively. We are internally innovative. We will always look for ways to do better. We are outcome-oriented. Results matter. We convene with purpose because time is precious, relationships are precious, and everything we do needs to make a real difference. We emphasize service over self. We pursue maximal humility. That means we don't assume we know the answer before the question has even been asked. It also means that we listen to different perspectives, and we do it a lot. We have different views, and we do not force consensus. Disagreement is an opportunity to learn, and we're going to do that. We build from existing strengths. We have great expertise on all 3 campuses. We're going to use it. We locate for impact. We're going to have events here, Flint, Dearborn, across the state, and in other places if the need arises. We will go to where we can do the greatest good. And we evaluate everything. This is important, and we'll come back to it. Starting in the fall semester, the center will feature 5 dynamic programs and 2 innovation accelerators. Our first program will teach civic skills, collaborative problem solving, and dialogue techniques. Courses on these topics will be offered in person and online. Some of them will last for a semester. Others will just take a few hours. People who complete the courses will gain certificates, and the certificates will show the world that they're able to help improve dialogue on campus and beyond. And after we get these classes up and running in U of M, make sure they work, we're going to take the best and most effective ones and make them available to everyone for free. Our second program will invite people to enter the arena. At places like the Ford School, interactive education role-playing simulations become life-changing experiences. It's like walking a mile in other people's shoes. At the Center for American Dialogue, our goal is to make these experiences available to everyone. Imagine playing the role of Ted Cruz in a situation where others are assigned to be Elizabeth Warren, Lisa McClain, or Debbie Dingell. You start by getting information about what your person, your role, knows and wants. You then interact with others to see what you can do together. We have been amazed at what people learn in these dynamic, interactive environments. Our third program, Convene with Purpose. It's a different kind of speaker series. It brings together audiences with differing viewpoints to solve real problems on campus, statewide, and online. But when you come to these events, expect to be a driver, not just a passenger. You are going to have some interesting things to do. Our fourth program, Partner with Impact, extends this work into communities across Michigan. In other words, the Center for American Dialogue will partner with communities and organizations across our state to make life better. In all cases, we will operate with humility. We'll listen first, and then offer tools to strengthen social fabrics, strand by strand, day by day. Our fifth program supports games and apps that help people listen, understand, and collaborate more effectively, even from their phones. As one of our student representatives has proposed, activities can include games like Choose a Side or Bridge the Divide. You can learn a lot from choices like that. These 5 programs are powerful, but the final 2 elements of the Center for American Dialogue raise the stakes and change the game. Together, they make the Center for American Dialogue unlike any other effort in the country. Our Innovation Accelerator competition is for people who have spectacular new ideas about how to achieve the center's objectives. If you have a bold new idea, this competition will give you a runway for that idea and an opportunity to make it fly. And then there's America's Dialogue Lab. This is a groundbreaking approach to impact assessment and analysis. This dedicated lab will collect and analyze data from all the activities we've just discussed. For every action the center takes, the question will be, how effectively is it empowering us to strengthen our social fabric? and we are going to share everything we discover, good and bad. When we do something that works, we're going to share it with everyone in the country so that people can copy what we're doing. And when something fails, we're going to show that too, so that people can learn from our mistakes. Interestingly, that's a novel approach. But we're going to take it. By showing people what works and what doesn't, the University of Michigan will empower people and organizations around the country to better rebuild the trust that our country needs. In other words, when it comes to strengthening America's social fabric, the University of Michigan is going to help everyone be leaders and best. This is our time. The Center for American Dialogue gives the nation a new reason to look to Michigan. This center is a true startup, and we will need you to make it real. At the end of preview day, we're going to show a QR code, much better than my face, on the screen that leads to more information about what the Center for American Dialogue is going to do and how you can be involved. On our 3 campuses, we'll soon distribute a request for proposals. These dialogue programs and innovation accelerators will be built by you, drawing on expertise across the university. Through an application process, we will build the entire center, strand by strand, day by day, without building a single silo. Get ready, because this is our moment. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your inspiration. Thank you for your leadership, and go Blue. Now, I would like to welcome Eric Veal Jr. to the stage to share his perspective as a student. Eric is the current president of the Central Student Government, and he's a senior studying political science at LS&A and secondary education at the Marsall School of Education. Eric is also looking for a job soon. He's awesome. You should hire him. Please join me in welcoming Eric Veal.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. We are so happy to be joined with you all today and to be opening up our new Dialogue Center. So when I became student body president, everybody talked to me a lot about how you were going to find this magical nexus point of how leadership looked. They thought you would find this middle ground, this magical, elusive point where everyone finally agrees and we all walk away happy. But the reality of the student experience quickly taught me something else. Our campus is vibrant and diverse, and consensus is rare. And more importantly, consensus isn't actually the goal. To be effective in delegated governance, everyone at the table must understand that respectful discourse and conversations are not just polite behaviors. They are essential tools for progress. We live in a moment where public debate feels like a conversation and more like a collision. We've watched the noise make people retreat into their own spaces where they only hear echoes of what they already believe. But the center is advocating for a different, bolder proposition. That the health of our democracy, it doesn't depend on us all thinking the same way. It depends on our ability to engage across our differences with rigor, evidence, and trust. Rooted in the best vision, the look to Michigan vision, this initiative recognizes that disagreement isn't a bug in our system, but it's a feature. This initiative teaches us that you can challenge an idea without attacking the person behind it. That is the heart of this Dialogue Center, and that's the heart of our institution. Ultimately, this is about service. The theme of this event brings people together to serve others more effectively. When we stop fighting over noise and start solving real-world issues, we become better leaders. So, to my fellow students, This center is a laboratory for the kind of bold civic engagement our world is striving for. So let's stop trying to quiet the noise by shouting over it. Let's start transforming that noise into a symphony of progress. Thank you, and go Blue. It is now my honor to introduce the next part of this program. We will welcome back Vice President Arthur Lupia, who will interview U.S. Representative Debbie Dingell and Congresswoman Lisa McClain. Congresswoman Dingell is a Democratic representative of Michigan's 6th District, including our university here in Ann Arbor. And Congresswoman McClain is the Republican representative of Michigan's 9th District and chairwoman of the House Republican Conference. The discussion will focus on why they chose public service and how they work to solve problems amid differing viewpoints. Please join me in welcoming our guests to the stage.
Thank you for being here. Not in the script. This is dream come true for over here. You two are your love for the country, your careers of public service are so extraordinary. You're an inspiration to me, and I know to so many people in this room. So just thank you for taking a little time with us.
Tell my husband that, will you?
Okay, if I ask you a couple of questions?
Sure.
That's why we're here. All right. We know a lot about you as incredible public servants. Can you share a little bit of your life story and just how you got to that point?
You outrank me.
Well, I'd never been in public service before I decided to run for Congress. I had a business, 35 years, started my own business, wife, mother, 4 kids, and a dog, right? I was involved, I guess, in the sense of I was always interested and I kept up on current events, but I never went into public forums or whatnot. And I remember this vividly. My daughter, Ryan, who was sassy at the time, I'm Italian, Sunday dinner, 4 o'clock, extremely important. You're there or you're out of the will. So my kids come home. It's my time to hold court. And I was complaining about something that I can guarantee you what exactly, I don't know. And my youngest daughter looked at me and she said, well, Mom, you can either be part of the problem or part of the solution. She wasn't, I don't think she was being encouraging, but it's like, wow, she really heard me. And to make a really long story short, I went to bed that night and I said, why not? I could do it. I was so naive that I thought I could have my business and do politics, right? 2 weeks later, the gentleman that had my seat decided to retire. And I'm like, well, here it is. Let's give it a shot. What do I have to lose? And here I am 6 years later, and I can tell you it's the absolute best. It's the best thing I've ever done. It's fun, and if I could leave everybody with one piece of advice, do what you love to do and have fun doing it, or don't do it, because life is just too short not to enjoy it.
So I would say, I don't agree with Lisa that it's fun right now, but I
Yes,
care
it
deeply.
is.
Oh, let's not push it. I mean, if you could have heard our conversation downstairs, you would know she doesn't think it's fun right now as we get ready to go back to work. We're going to have a very tough week.
Yes, this
and
is
we
the-
actually agree
Yeah.
on the issue that's going to be very tough, but I'm not going to talk about that. I was actually a Republican and grew up in Lisa's district and was a car girl. I worked for General Motors for 3 decades. And while I was working for General Motors, I met this man that I turned down 15 times. And we should never have gotten married, and we had a love affair that most people never have in their lifetime. So I had been involved and engaged in the sense that when I was in high school, I got my first paycheck, and I'm like, where is it? Taxation without representation. And I actually organized high school students across the state of Michigan, and we formed Citizens United for the Vote at 18 and got the 18-year-old vote. So that's why kids on this campus can vote. It was a while ago, though. No, it was. And then I started when a woman friend of mine became sick, and I discovered that women weren't included. Skip's heard me vent on this. Women were not included in any federally funded research, And it's not even an accurate study now, but the aspirin a day keeps, the Framingham Heart Study keeps the doctor away, and now they're even questioning that. But there were no women in that study. So I started the National Women's Health Resource Center, and I've been engaged in issues. And I was a partner to my spouse. But I decided, for many reasons, the auto industry was going through changes. I declined running for the Senate. But when the seat opened, I thought, I'll be a voice at the table. I understand this process. And the working men and women of my district, which is a complicated district, it goes from downriver, which votes for Trump, to Ann Arbor, I don't need to tell you who we are, and Western Wayne, Western Washtenaw, and there needs to be a voice at the table. So, and I was very clear that I had to do it my way. I would not let my spouse campaign with me. And I have to earn the right and the respect of the people that I represent every single day. But I do think they have a right to a voice at the table, and they need someone that will listen to everybody. And I try to do that.
And believe it or not, we actually are glad that she has a voice at the table.
We are good. People don't know that. We don't agree, but that's maybe what this is about. You need to respect each other. We can have very good conversations about how to solve problems because we listen to everybody.
Thank you. Well, look at the next question I have. This is just totally on point. So you represent your districts in our state with such great integrity and energy and impact. Can you share a bit about your relationship with one another?
Well, we're friends. I mean, actually, the fact of the matter is we are friends, and we talk about everything, and we I say this to people, so I'm going to say it. I tell you that I tell it. I'm not in the room with President Trump. He hates me, and she knows it. But she is. And when you want to solve problems, you need the president. So when people are talking to me, I'm like, you need to go call Lisa, because Lisa's in the room. And she'll hear it, and I'll talk to her, and I'll say, hey, I met with this group, and they don't feel like anybody's listening to you. And the two of us go and meet with that. We are very proud and are partners in cheering for the University of Michigan and representing them every single day. We love sports, we go to the games together, we cheer and we do all that. But you know, I've said this, I'll say it here. This university has had a lot of eyes on it, and they are very lucky, and they haven't escaped it all. I'm gonna be that honest, but Lisa is the person, I'll call her and she'll tell me. And I'll tell her, she said to me today, are there any new problems I don't know about? But you gotta work together to protect the things that you love. And you come from different perspectives, you have different viewpoints, but you know, talking to each other with different viewpoints, listening to different people actually can solve problems.
Amen. I tell everybody this, the first call that I got when I won my congressional race was from Debbie Dingell. The very first call. And I said, you're a Democrat, you're not supposed to be calling me. She's like, I'm from Michigan and you won and I want to congratulate you. And I still remember that today. You know, I would say that our relationship is open, honest, fair, and filled with respect. And like you said, we don't agree on everything. But much like I'm in the room with President Trump, when Biden was president, when President Biden was there, the Democrats were in charge, right? I'm not so naive to think that I have to, and I'm putting words in your mouth, but if you want to get something done, depending on who's in power, it does matter who the messenger is. So if we can work together, and believe it or not, we have things that we work together for the common good. And I will tell everybody this. If you get the news media out of the way, if y'all would get off Facebook or Twitter or Truth or whatever the heck is on there anymore, there's probably not Twitter anymore, right? It's X. That's how old I am. But we are a lot more together than we are apart. And the problem is it sells. And everybody wants that, click, that news bait. And where I am appreciative of my partner is we both represent the state of Michigan. We both want the same things. We may disagree on how we get there, But for the most part, I would say we have a lot more in common than we do not in common. But we always have honest conversation. And I think that's the key, honest, respectful conversation.
Thank you. What a great model. So in your job, you encounter different points of view all the time. What advice do you have for us, particularly students, about how to serve most effectively in those moments?
Well, my late husband had a saying that anybody who knows me has heard me say, God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, to listen more and talk less. And even we were talking as we were coming in here about how hard we both have worked. Allegedly we're on recess, except we're in a district work period that we've been starting at 6 in the morning and going to midnight every night. And I've had everybody yell at me because I did Fox, and they say, why do you do Fox? I went to Hash Bash. Everybody's like, why would you go to Hash Bash?
That's why
Hey,
she's so happy.
and I start every year. They asked me to do it right after John died. And I've never smoked marijuana, and I'm not gonna ever smoke marijuana. But I'm a control freak. I don't drink either. But you don't know what people think unless you go to where they are. And I think that's really important. I have predicted very accurately a number of things that now people say to me, if you want to know what's happening to Michigan, go talk to Debbie. And I'm afraid that I'll break my record someday. But you know it by going every weekend that I'm home. Some of you know you can always find me at the farmer's market. But I try to go in a union hall, I try to be in a school, I try to be in a VFW to meet with the veterans, I try to be downriver, Ann Arbor, Western Wayne, I try to meet with farmers, I go to Dexter Farm. You go where people are. And you make sure, I hate entourages. I don't go with staff, which drives everybody nuts, especially the Michigan security that never knows when I'm on campus and always tries to, know where I am. But you got to listen to people. You got to be where they are, and I think that's the most important responsibility we have.
Yeah. I totally agree with everything she said. I would add one thing. I don't understand what's happened to make people so bitter. Like, what happened in your life to make you so bitter? We have a choice every day to wake up, and we look at the glass as half empty, half full, right? One of the things we can control is what our attitude is. And I think we need to really pause for a second and really examine why are we so angry? Like, what are we angry about? Why don't we start from a different spot? Why? And that's what, I truly am, I do enjoy what I'm doing, or I can share with you, I absolutely wouldn't do it. And I said that, and I mean that sincerely, because I'm choosing to do this. This is what I like to do. But let's start from a place of positiveness. Let's start from a place of what can we do to make things better. Getting up angry every day, irritated at the world, one, I don't think that's healthy, but two, who wants to be around an angry elf all the time? It's just, I'm not saying that, things don't come your way, but if we could just start from a perspective that we really do kind of want the same things. We all want to leave the next generation better than we have it for ourselves. But we gotta let go of this anger. Why are we so angry, right? And my staff is with me because they don't let me go anywhere. But I remember we were in the line at Tim Hortons getting a coffee, and the gal in front of us, or the car in front of us, paid for us. And I was like, pay it for. We ended up paying it for. It was just, it puts you in a good mood. And I don't know about you, but I'd rather be in a good mood than a bad mood. So, if we start from that, I think it just lowers the temperature a titch.
But she's right, but I'm gonna be much more blunt. We are normalizing political violence. We are normalizing that, I cannot change my life, and I will not change my life. And I know I drive the Ann Arbor police chief crazy, you're the Michigan security, I'm just not going to do it. But I also don't know when someone's going to get up and scream at us. I don't know if someone, I mean, I was on the Minnesota killers list, and they tried to put security with me for 2 days, and I was like, I can't take this. I just can't do it. But we do have to use common sense, and we shouldn't be expecting it. And every person in this community and every person in this country that loves this country should stand up and speak out against hate wherever and whenever they see it, period. And by the way, the first person that called me was Lisa when she heard that I was on the list. And are you okay? What do you need? Are you doing what you need to do?
And she wasn't.
That's true too.
Thank you. Is there a public servant, past or present, who particularly inspired or inspires you? And what do you hope they would think about the work that you are doing today?
So for me, the one that probably rings closest to me is Ronald Reagan, just because I was in high school when he got elected, and he seemed to be the president that was presidential and probably left the biggest mark on me politically, because like I said, I really wasn't involved that much politically. He's the one that I can remember. I can remember his speeches, and what I more remember is they were positive, they were optimistic, they were, forward-looking, and that really resonated with me. I think probably one of the most influential people in my life, though, that wasn't political was my mom, and I still laugh today. Here's this little girl from Stockbridge, Michigan, sitting in the Oval Office with the president. To me, that's funny. It's crazy when you think about it, but it truly is. It's America. You can do anything, but that comes from my mom. She didn't take it. She didn't let me take excuses. She didn't want to listen to them. If you think you can, go for it. She always gave me the encouragement and more the tough love not to accept the excuses of why you can't. Figure out how to get to a yes. So she never let me play that victim role, and I think it's helped.
So I've had several people, and I'm lucky I've known some giants. I'm gonna give you an unusual name, but remember I told you I was a Republican when I was young, and when I married John Dingell, Betty Ford was better to me. Betty Ford, look, let's all be honest. I mean, I'm not old, but I'm seasoned, and I was a young wife with a significant age difference, and women didn't work. If you were a spouse, you didn't work in those days. And Betty and Jerry Ford were friends of both of us. John and Jerry Ford were very close friends, and he put country over personal gain as president of these United States, and we should all learn from what he did when he was president. But Jerry and Betty Ford helped me just in more ways, helped me not be attacked, helped me adjust, and I'm very proud. I'm on both the Gerald Ford School Board here and on the library board, and I'm very proud of it. I was very blessed to be very close to John Lewis. John Lewis was a close friend of John's in this. I mean, I was 2 when John got elected, let's be honest here. But John and John were very close friends. They did Selma together. They worked, and John Lewis just inspired so many people, believed in nonviolence, but that advocacy and civic engagement were part of being an American citizen and democracy. And John happened, some of you may know that, I lived in a household that wasn't great when I was growing up, and my father shouldn't have had access to guns. Thought I was going to die more than once, and when we were having the sit-in on the floor of the House on guns, and Lisa and I don't agree on guns. She would have agreed with John. But John Lewis told me at 2 a.m, tell him your story. And he gave me the strength to tell my story, and I've been much more open about it. I'd never told it. I was embarrassed. I didn't want people to know. And we have to tell the stigma and put the human face on it. So those are two people.
Thank you. We have a lot of college students at a university, and I'm wondering, I'm going to phrase the question two ways. One is, what advice do you have for them, or, what would you tell your 18 to 22-year-old self sort of now? Like, what's a thing that you didn't know then that maybe you would tell yourself in retrospect?
So what would I tell my 18-year-old self?
Yes.
That I didn't know now?
That you didn't know then.
Oh, that I didn't know then.
Yeah.
I was much more opinionated at 18 than I am now, believe it or not. And I was the smartest person in the room when I was 18, right? I had an opinion and I didn't really listen that well, and the only experiences that I had were the experiences that were close to me that shaped my life. What I would tell myself now is open your eyes, right? I grew up in a little town called Stockbridge, which was fantastic for me. But I only knew myself by the little experiences that I had in Stockbridge, right? That's the only thing that, I wasn't cultured, I wasn't world travelers, we didn't go on vacation, we barely went out to dinner. So to me, and I think Debbie talked a little bit about it earlier, is you see things differently when you immerse yourself into a culture. And usually it's a culture that you're not used to, right? So if you surround yourself with people who are like-minded, which is normal, we typically do that as humans, what I would suggest is go out and get different experiences and see the situation from another's point of view. Because the only view I thought that mattered when I was 18 was my view. I never saw the situation from another's point of view. I never looked at the situation from their lens. And that's what I think makes our relationship very strong, is, believe it or not, I'm still very opinionated, but what has changed is disagreement isn't disloyalty. So before, if you didn't disagree with me, well, I thought you were a jerk. I had more colorful words back then. But now, disagreement either makes me stronger in my position to have that open and honest debate, or it gets me to see things a little differently from your perspective, right? They talk about that Washington bubble, and that Washington bubble is so true. And I'll give you all one example. It was, I don't know when the first shutdown was. I can't remember when it was.
There have been so many.
Everybody was like, oh my God, the shutdown, the shutdown, the shutdown, the shutdown. And we were arguing oh, it's the Democrats' fault. No, it's the Republicans' fault, right? Well, I had been up there because of my leadership position. I had been up there up in DC for 3 weeks, and I was kind of dreading coming home and going to the grocery store because I thought that'd be all anybody wanted to talk about was the shutdown, the shutdown. It's your fault. It's the Democrats. It's the I went to the grocery store. I had to ask people, hey, what do you think about the shutdown? And they're like, it's 75 shutdown? 94 shutdown? It's my point with that is because you're in this Washington bubble, you think that's reality. Or because you're on Facebook, you think that's reality. Get out into the real world and get some different experiences, and you see the world through a different lens, and it just makes things a little bit better. Not perfect, but it gets things better, and you can appreciate things from a different perspective. That's probably the biggest advice I'd give myself. Sometimes I take it.
So I just have to say, we do need to pay TSA soon. I'm really worried about it. I always
did pass
lobby.
it 4 times out of the house, I will tell you that.
We won't get into that today. It's one of the
4 times
areas
we
that I'm
passed to
pushing.
pay TSA, but it's all right.
Eric will tell you this when I had the student government town hall. That I tell people, and I know the dean must not love me, don't get a political science degree. But if you care about politics, what issue makes you tick? What are you excited about? Is it the environment? Is it healthcare? Is it, there's so many different issues, develop your specialty in that. Network with people that share that with you and bring that to the public policy arena. I mean, if you got a political science degree, we love you, but I think people should follow their passion. And I believe this very strongly. This is the advice that I give to, if anybody's heard me speak if the kids are here, I can't tell who's all here, develop relationships. Social media is not a relationship. I tell the kids that call somebody, well, they texted. Texting is not a conversation. So social media is destroying relationships. You can't build trust. You can't get to know each other. Get to know people.
On this theme, can you share a moment when you had a difficult and yet successful conversation with someone who had an opposing viewpoint? How do you handle it, and how did the results end up being better than ignoring the person or the situation?
So I'm going to give you a very specific example. Like when I first got elected, and some of it happened on this campus, it happened at the farmers market every Saturday, I did not sign on to the Green New Deal because labor was not at the table. And I am someone who believes very strongly that when you do those kinds of things, you got to bring everybody to the table. And I'd give anything to have those they were nice. They were so, they'd come up behind me and they'd have their signs, or they'd be at farmer's market, call your congresswoman, and I'd walk up to that person and say, you don't have to call me, you can talk to me here.
I'm right here.
They did a sit-in in my office, but I said to the environmental community that I have very strong relationships with, I will bring the labor community, and then I brought the OEMs and the supplier community, and I spent months. The first meeting, there were 52 different heads of environmental groups with the presidents of several unions, but we came together. Now, Lisa still doesn't agree with what we came together on, but we, the environmentalists will tell you this is what I do. I bring people together and try to find that common ground, which we came together on electric vehicles. How do you protect jobs? How do you protect the environment? And I was very proud of the fact that what we agreed to became legislation and was signed at the White House with everybody in attendance. And I'm still proud of that. And I think it matters. And the Great Lakes is something that our entire delegation understands the importance of and works together to protect. And we have disagreements, but we still talk about it all the time because we want a strong industry. We want to stay at the forefront of innovation and technology, not only in this country, but in the global economy.
I mean, just to piggyback on that that's our job. We deal with disagreements every single day, whether it's within the opposite party or even within your own party. No one's ever going to agree with everyone. I mean, heck, I don't agree 100% of the time with my husband on where we should go to dinner, even though we always get to go where I want to go. But my point is, that's the job, right? That's what we do for a living, right? We represent, whether it's labor, whether it's environmentalists, whether it's auto workers, whether it's farmers, whether it's business owners, whether it's educators. That's our job, is to debate. That's our job, because if we debate, supposedly, and it does work out if you can be respectful, is if two people with differing point of views can debate, they get to a better solution for more people. And that's the whole goal of how it is supposed to work. Right now with social media, and I couldn't agree more, everything is so polarized and there's so much, you want the headline, right? Because that's what sells. I mean, don't bother reading, what the bill says or really what it says. So I think that's what we do day in and day out. And the best way that I can think to deal with it is go to the source of the problem. So if I have an issue with Debbie, I go to Debbie. I don't go to 17 other people. I actually say, hey, Deb, what are we doing on this? We got a problem, right? I actually go to her. And then 2, I don't rag on her on social media. Right? I know that's the easy, cool thing to do. I could probably get a lot of clicks like that, and she could probably do the same thing, but does it really solve the issue? No. So one, be truthful and go to the source. That's the best way I know how to deal when you have differing agreements. I mean, we've done that with the University of Michigan.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you two quick examples of. Actually, I'm someone that's more than nuanced on tariffs. Tariffs are a tool in the toolbox. But suppliers were really being hurt. And I called Lisa and said, we got a problem.
gotta get together.
And so we had the supplier roundtable, but she's the one that had access to help people understand what the issues were. And we did it on the hospital here at University of Michigan when visas were, I called her and said, hey, you gotta understand this. And we worked together all weekend. So that's what we do.
Unfortunately, the news media doesn't cover that because no one wants to hear that. That's not like sexy. That doesn't really sell. It's sad, but true.
What is one part of your job that you find personally rewarding that we would never see in social media or just kind of in day-to-day life?
I can share with me what's super rewarding is helping my constituents. And I'll give you a couple examples. That is, and it doesn't matter if they're in my district or not, but if any of you know Mitch Albom was stuck in Haiti, couldn't get out. This was under, doesn't matter what administration, couldn't get out. He called. He's like, I've called a couple people. They're not responding. He actually called a constituent in my district who then called me. I said, put me on the phone with Mitch. We actually helped him get 8 people out of his orphanage in Haiti. Mitch Albom's called me a couple times on helping to get visas for his students. I think, no, one was from here, I think. Helping constituents with passports, with IRS issues, with any issue they may have. I mean, it's just really rewarding to know that you can have the influence to get that done. That's probably the biggest reward.
I mean, you all see me do a lot. I love people. And I want to be accessible and I want to listen to people. Casework is one of the most important things I do. Or, this people will come to me and they need to get to a doctor. They need medicine and they don't know how to get it. Parents of young children who, there's some really horrific stories.
Makes you feel good, though.
I just want to be there. We're lucky enough to be able to help people.
And the other thing I can share, and I'll say this for Debbie as well, we never ask, well, it's not my district. Or is it your district? Is it my district? Oh, no, because they're all people and they all need help. And we never ask the question, what party are you? So for those of you who know Mitch Albom, I don't think Mitch is on my side of the aisle. I'm just going to take a wild guess.
I don't know about that. We both are friends of Mitch, and we both work together. It doesn't
matter because they're people who need
I don't
help,
think he's a Democrat.
and we are in a position to help them.
All right, so final question. We're putting up the Center for American Dialogue. A lot of different universities are doing things like that. One of the things we want to do at the center is we want to run to the accountability rather than from it. What's the thing that you want a center like this to do, where when we run into each other a year from now, 2 years from now, you get to ask me, did you guys do that? Like, what should we be held accountable for in your eyes?
I think I'm going to tell you something that's the hardest issue I deal with every day. I lived in Dearborn for 30 years. I have many friends in the Jewish community. I have a significant Muslim population, and after Gaza, I spoke with all kinds of students. And the stories on both sides were horrific. People defecating and leaving it on their doorstep, kids in tears. We need to find, after 9/11, and part of it was the leadership of George Bush, John Dingell, and others, we found a way to come together. And I think the communities, it scares me, it makes me cry. Let's remind people of all faiths, or if you have no religion, that how much we have in common, and really stand up to the hate whenever and wherever we see it.
I would say two things. Silence is agreement. I'll leave it at that. Silence is agreement. But the number one thing you can do for accountability, and you asked, so I'm going to answer the question. If you have a rule, and you have laws, or you have a handbook, or you have a code of conduct, or call it whatever it is, you need to follow it. Period. Because the minute you open that door and the minute you don't follow it, and the encampment's supposed to only go up for 24 hours and it's up there for, that's a problem. Whenever you begin to get outside those tolerance bands, and I don't care where it's at, I don't care if it's the university, I don't care if it's in Congress, if you have a law, a handbook, a code of conduct, whatever, you gotta follow it. You gotta be able to hold yourself accountable and not hold yourself accountable to the money. Because unfortunately, no matter where you're at, follow the money and you'll see why people act like they act. That is probably the most disgusting thing that I've seen. So if you have a rule, and you don't like it, change the rule. But if you have it, you gotta hold yourselves accountable to it, and I think things will go a lot better.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Really great to see you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. They're great. It is now my privilege to introduce our next musical performance. Please join me in welcoming musical theater soloist Z. Happinen from the class of 2027 and Nicholas Wilkinson from the class of 2026 performing Wheels of a Dream from Ragtime.
I see his face, I hear his heart beat, I look in those eyes, how wise they seem. Well, when he is old enough, I will show him America, and he will ride on the wheels of a dream. We'll go down south, and see your people. Won't they take to him like cats to cream? And we'll travel on from there,
California or who knows where,
and we will ride on the wheels of a dream. Yes, the wheels are turning for us, girl, and the tides are starting to roll. Any man can get where he wants to if he's got some fire in his soul. We'll see Justice Sarah and plenty of men who will stand up and give us our due. Oh, Sarah, it's more than promises. Sarah, it must be true. A country that lets a man like me own a car, raise a child, build a life with you. With you.
with you.
Beyond that road, beyond this lifetime, that car for of happiness and the freedom he'll live to know. He'll travel with head held high, just as far as his heart can go. And he will ride, our son will ride on the wheels of a dream.
What a beautiful musical performance. My name is Angelica. I'm a PhD candidate in molecular, cellular, and developmental biology, an international student from Italy, and I have the honor, privilege, and responsibility of serving as the president of the Rackham student government. In Italy, high schools follow specific academic orientations. Although I was already drawn to science and research, I chose a classical track, studying ancient Greek, Latin, philosophy, and the humanities. In retrospect, it shaped how I think, how I ask questions, and how I understand the role of knowledge in society. Moving between disciplines taught me something fundamental: that no single perspective is sufficient to fully understand a complex question. Engaging deeply with very different fields required me to hold multiple ways of thinking at once. It showed me that knowledge is not static or singular, but enriched through dialogue across perspectives. That lesson continues to shape how I approach both science and leadership. When I chose to pursue my graduate training at the University of Michigan, I was not drawn only to the excellence and breadth of its research, but also to its public mission. Here, we have the opportunity to deepen our knowledge while contributing to something larger, engaging with one another and with communities beyond our campus across Michigan. As a scientist, my work is ultimately of service, and it cannot be done in isolation. In my role as the president of the graduate student government, I have sought to foster spaces for dialogue across disciplines and perspectives, from organizing events meant to promote dialogue to providing platforms to students to share the impact of their research. Because it is through these connections across fields, experiences, and communities that we not only learn more, but serve more meaningfully. Thank you. And now, it is my privilege to introduce our keynote speaker, David Brooks, journalist, author, and social and political commentator. A longtime New York Times columnist, he's now a staff writer at The Atlantic and a commentator on PBS NewsHour. He's the founder and chair of Weave, the Social Fabric Project, which works to rebuild social trust by supporting local community leaders. His most recent book, How to Know a Person: The Art of Seeing Others Deeply and Being Deeply Seen, explores the skill needed to truly understand others and, in turn, how to be understood ourselves. He has also taught at Duke and at the University of Chicago, and serves as the inaugural senior presidential fellow at Yale's Jackson School of Global Affairs. Today, he argues that America's democratic turmoil is, at its core, a crisis of dehumanization and erosion of our ability, across both the left and the right, to recognize and honor the full dignity of one another as fellow citizens. His remarks will challenge us to consider practical, personal steps to rebuild a more humane civic culture. Please join me in welcoming Mr. David Brooks.
Thank you. Thank you, Angelica. I don't know if you guys have ever had this
experience, it's February, it's 11 p.m. at night, you're trudging through the snow and it's 0 degrees out. At those moments, I find it really hard to imagine what it's like to sleep or to be lying on the beach on a sunny July day, because the experience is so brutal. My job here today is to try to describe why we're in the winter right now, how as a country we're going to get to the summer, and how universities, and in particular the University of Michigan, can play a role. Now, the next 7 minutes are going to be grim as I talk about how we got here, but I promise you there will be a turnaround. Over the course of my lifetime, there have been several moments when we have lost faith. The first was when I was a kid. In the 60s and 70s, there was Vietnam, Watergate, riots, assassination, deindustrialization, social decay. That produced a loss of institutional trust. Before 1965, Americans typically would say, 70 or 80% of them would say, I trust government to do the right thing most of the time. After the periods I just described, it wasn't 75%, it was closer to 20%. People lost trust. The second wave of disillusionment came in the 2000s. 9/11, we lost faith in our own safety. Iraq War, we lost faith in our ability to do good abroad. Financial crisis, we lost faith in unregulated capitalism. The internet and social media, we lost faith in our ability to get along if we all communicate with one another. Democracy stopped spreading. Somehow Americans stopped treating each other with kindness and consideration. 36% of Americans began to say they were lonely. 45% of high school students said they're persistently hopeless and despondent. 58% of college students say they have no sense of purpose and meaning. The number of people who say they have no friends increased by 4-fold since 2000. The number of people who rate themselves in the lowest happiness category is up by 50% since 2000. So we lost faith in each other. 2 generations ago, if you asked people, do you trust your neighbors? 60% said yes. Now it's not 60%, it's 30%, and 19% of Millennial and Gen Z. We also lost faith in our future. 69% of Americans say they no longer believe in the American dream. 59% say this country is in decline. People begin to experience this sense of loss of faith, this loneliness, this distrust and disconnection as humiliation and as a moral injury. No one wants to be with me. No one sees me. No one respects me. Loneliness produces its own cognitive distortions. Hypervigilant to threat, lonely people are better at perceiving hostility and slow to perceive friendliness. So you get these doom loops. And this sense of loss of faith, this sense that the system isn't working for me is not distributed equally. And this matters to those of us who work on universities. People with high school degrees die 10 years sooner than people with college degrees, are 5 times more likely to have kids out of wedlock, are 6 times more likely to die of opioid addiction, are 2.4 times as likely to say they have no friends, and are less likely to go to parks and get involved in civic organizations. Somehow this education divide is eating away at the country. And so many people feel humiliated, feel the systems aren't working, feel resentful. It can be less educated people, it could be urban people, it could be rural people, it could be religiously orthodox people, it could be oppressed minority groups, struggling young people. History shows how powerful humiliation is. The Germans felt humiliated after World War I, and we got World War II. The Arabs felt humiliated after the Six-Day War, and we got the Middle East. Osama bin Laden felt humiliated by American presence on Saudi soil, and we got 9/11. Russia felt humiliated after the Cold War, and we got Ukraine. The China scholar William Callahan argues the master narrative of modern Chinese history is the discourse about the century of humiliation. All these trends, pessimism, humiliation, loss of faith, distrust, have produced an intensely pessimistic public atmosphere. Google Ngrams measures what kind of words get used in all the languages, in the books, the magazines, and the newspapers, and they can measure this going back to the 1850s. From 1850 to 2013, American conversation was primarily upbeat, positive words, positive emotions. Since 2013, we are at the most pessimistic public culture in American history, more pessimistic than during the Great Depression, than during the Civil War, than during the World Wars. And so this produces the cultural theme of our age, which is resentment. Resentment is about social standing. Someone makes you feel inferior to them. Someone has something I want. Someone has a superiority I cannot match. They don't offer me recognition, respect. They don't even know I'm here. And so when resentment hits, you want to lash out, but you feel blocked. You don't know who to attack. You don't know who to attack. You feel intimidated. The primary scholar of resentment is a German philosopher named Max Scheler, who wrote in the early part of the 20th century, watching what was happening to Germany in his day. He called resentment a self-poisoning of the soul. Nobody chooses to feel resentment. It affects the interior life, which is its own ecology. It's a poison, he wrote, that works from within. It creates feeling of envy, an impulse toward revenge and retribution, what the academics call a hermeneutics of suspicion. Scheler is most brilliant about how resentment changes over time. First, it feels like a lack. I'm not being respected. I'm not being seen. But it ferments as time goes by. Over time, the resentful person sees the things he cannot have, and he concludes they are not worth having. He experiences the systematic devaluation of all the higher values. Kindness is perceived as weakness. Generosity is perceived as naive. Intellectual achievement is perceived as elitism. Expertise is a sham. Excellence, merit, and achievement are just expressions of privilege. It's not only he's pretending not to care about that he doesn't want what he can't get, he actually loses the ability to want the higher things that are worth wanting. He doesn't say, I'm bitter. He says, I'm perceiving the world more clearly. He thinks it's a gain of knowledge, but it's really a spiritual constriction. And he thinks they're all corrupt. Now, I'm not going to get too political, but Donald Trump is resentment personified. I lived in the 1980s, and there was an entire magazine called Spy Magazine designed to ridicule Donald Trump. People from Manhattan look down on this guy from Queens, Donald Trump. And he embodies the poison that resentment does to people. I remember there was a moment, you may recall it too, when he visited the beaches of Normandy, and he couldn't understand why anybody would risk their life for a war. He couldn't see that higher value of love of country makes you want to serve, and even at the cost of your own life, your country. He thought they were just suckers. You may remember he couldn't really understand John McCain, why he'd risk willingness to put himself in a Vietnamese prison for 5 years because he loved his country and he wanted to serve it. Trump is the idea, and his administration embodies the idea that morality is for suckers, life is about power, force, bullying. Nihilism, in general, is the mindset that says whatever is lower is more real. Selfishness, egoism, and lust for power drive human affairs. Altruism, generosity, honor, integrity are mirages. That's a problem of the right. Resentment is also a problem of the left. Social justice movements are wonderful when they allow people who've been excluded access to the wonderful things of life. Social justice movements are not wonderful when they begin to feel resentful and denial of, when they denigrate excellence and merit, when they see the world merely as systems of oppression and not the good things that we also exist in the system. Resentment's third stage after the fermentation is cruelty and violence. You get ICE, you get wars, you get the idea, as Thucydides wrote, the strong can do what they can and the weak suffer what they must. And I've experienced the last year, as many people have, as sort of a continual assault on my sense of what America is. It's been a brutal period to live through. And so that explains, Alyssa McLean asked, why are people bitter? In my view, this is why they're bitter. They feel failed. They feel unseen. They feel the systems don't work. The good news is that the problems I'm describing are not primarily material. We have our material problems, as all countries do. But the problems I'm describing, distrust, humiliation, resentment, those are psychological problems, those are moral problems, those are spiritual problems, those are cultural problems. And the good news is that culture is the easiest thing to change. Culture changes the way science changes. There's a paradigm that lasts for a little while, people decide it's not working, and they chop it up and they create a new paradigm. This happens all the time. In the 1950s, we had a culture. It was a culture of self-effacement, of I'm no better than anybody else, but nobody's better than me. And there were some good things about that culture. But in 1962, a group of students from the University of Michigan said, it's not working for us. It's too conformist. It's not creative. It's racist. It's sexist. It's anti-Semitic. We need to chop up this culture. And those students went to Port Huron, Michigan, and they wrote the Port Huron Statement. And if you look at that statement from 1962, that created the culture of the 1960s. It appealed to a lot of people. It was a culture of liberation. And that was a bohemian culture. Let's have some freedom, personal freedom. And we needed to go through that. In the 1980s, a different culture came in. Reagan, Thatcher, the moral majority, you might call it the bourgeois backlash. No, enough liberation. Let's go with the bourgeois virtues of industry and decency. Then in 2008, Barack Obama ran on idealism. In 2016, the culture had switched again, and Donald Trump ran on American carnage. Culture changes when a small group of people find a better way to live, and the rest of us copy. That's what the people at Port Huron did. They found a better way to live, and the rest of them copied. That's what the early church did. 12 guys pointed this guy Jesus, and they said, we should live like that guy. It helped he was the Son of God. That was an advantage. But they found a better way to live. So you got to be an exemplar. You don't argue people into a new culture. You show them how to be more fully alive. And so what happens after moments of exhaustion is people get sick of them. They get sick of disillusionment, of resentment, of anger, of bitterness. And so what follows? History is very clear. What follows are periods of romanticism. Romanticism is a series of cultural movements that put the heart at the center of your life. If resentment is about not wanting the highest things, romanticism is about falling in love with the highest things. It's recovering a mode of knowledge through feeling. Romanticism says beauty is real, truth is real, kindness is real. These are not shams. These are things we should long for and hunger for and love. And we're going to express ourselves through poetry and music and art and everything. We're going to stir the ardor of our hearts to want things. And so romanticism constantly comes after periods of resentment. The 4th century produced the Neoplatonists. That was a romantic movement. The exhaustion of medieval life produced the age of chivalry, courtly love, cathedrals. That was romanticism. The 12th century, you had Chartres Cathedral after the exhaustion of an old form of Catholicism. That was romanticism. In the 1770s, the exhaustion of industrialization produced the Romantics, Beethoven, people like that. In the late 19th century, the exhaustion of industrialization produced the Transcendentalists like Ralph Waldo Emerson and the Pre-Raphaelites like John Ruskin. And so you have these periods of perverse desire followed by periods of ardent desire. Now the problem with romanticism is you can desire great things or you can desire crappy things. And romanticism doesn't really tell you which to desire. You need a movement that comes along with romanticism that guides it. If romanticism is like your ardent 16-year-old teenager, humanism is like the older sibling who says, no, don't do that. Do this. Humanism. Humanism is anything that upholds the dignity of each person. Humanism is built around human dignity. Antigone trying to bury her brother is humanism. Lincoln rebinding the nation with the second inaugural is humanism. Martin Luther King writing that letter from the Birmingham jail is humanism. Tracy Chapman and Luke Combs singing Fast Car at the Grammys. That's humanism. Humanism is the conviction that human beings have a nature that can be cultivated toward excellence, and that the primary instrument of that cultivation are education, literature, friendship, and moral attention. Humanism puts cultivation at the center. And what is this institution about? It's about cultivation. It's about cultivation and friendship. And so, like romanticism, humanism arises at moments of crisis. People take a look into the abyss of what humans are capable of doing, and they say, whoa, we need to improve our educational system. It happened empirically in Athens. It happened in the Italian Renaissance. It happened in the Scottish Enlightenment. It happened in the American founding. After World War I, people take a look at the brutality, and at Columbia University, they created the Great Books program. After World War II, they took a look at the brutality of World War II, and they created the Aspen Institute. They created all these university programs where people were going to read the great books. And that's where universities come in. Universities have the power to shape our national culture. At their best, universities have the power to contribute to a humanist revival by doing four things simultaneously. First, gathering people capable of having serious intellectual friendships into physical proximity. Second, providing economic shelter for the life of the mind so people can retreat from the world to actually think about stuff here. Preserving and transmitting the texts that constitute the long conversation and showing to the wider world that this conversation really matters. To me, the great conversation is the conversation that has existed since Confucius and since Aristotle or Homer, and it's been going on ever since. And when we're undergrads, we get introduced by our professors into this great conversation. And the great conversation tries to balance the different antitheses that make up being human, between achievement and equality, between belonging and autonomy. There is no final resting point for any of these tensions. We're just trying to find the best solution we can at this moment. And that's why the great conversation never ends. And so one of the things that's been heartening to me in this dark time has been the way the universities have gotten active. This has been, in many ways, an absolutely crappy time to be a university president. And to be involved in any, especially in the research fields. But for those of us who are looking for some sort of revival, this has been a wonderful time. And I've visited maybe 40 universities over the last year. And I've spoken probably with 60 university presidents. And what I've seen is what I saw just now today on this stage, which is reform, change, activism, people getting busy to create a humanistic revival. And what I've seen on these campuses are, first, a profusion of courses that nurture character development and moral formation, the core humanistic belief that we can cultivate people toward excellence. Second, courses and programs on citizenship training and civic thought. What do I need to be a good citizen? Third, programs to help people learn to reason across difference, to have these conversations and these dialogues. Fourth, courses that give students practical advice on how to lead a flourishing life. My Yale students, I asked them, what do you want me to talk to you about? And they said there are two things they wanted me to talk to them about. First, how to be ambitious without being a jerk. And second, how do you fall in love? They're looking for advice on how to live. Universities have not always been a force for good. The humanistic ideal has sometimes taken a step back for the research ideal, which involves hyper-specialization, or the social justice ideal, we should change society, or the career ideal, we should help people prepare for careers. Those are great ideals. But the humanistic ideal is at the core, I think, of what should happen here. And so the importance of the university is you can have a shift in culture. You can have a bunch of University of Michigan students going off to Port Huron again and writing another thing. This is what we need in 2026. And that would be great. I wish somebody would do that. But humanistic revivals only take hold when they're institutionalized. Institutionalized in civic groups and institutionalized in universities. The way social change happens in this country is threefold. First, you get a cultural shift. Then you get civic institutions bringing that shift into reality in their universities, in community groups. And then you get political change. Political change comes afterwards. It's not fair to ask politicians to be cultural entrepreneurs. They're busy. But that's what the universities are for. And so we have been through this so many times. We had a cultural winter in the 1770s. The Revolutionary period was brutal. The 1830s, Andrew Jackson's populism, brutal. 1890s, the massive political corruption, massive poverty in America's cities, brutal. 1960s, people forget there were bombings. There were 2,000 bombings on American college campuses in 1969 alone. It was a brutal time to live through. America, like every one of us, grows through a process of rupture and repair. We're at the process of rupture. What we saw today is the process of repair. Now, a couple years ago, I was at a hotel bar, and I was, if you had seen me there, you would have thought, sad guy drinking alone. I call it reporting. And I was on my phone, and I was on Twitter, and it was after October 7th. And you can imagine the images I was seeing on my phone, utter brutality. It was just the worst. And I'm scrolling, and I come across a video of James Baldwin, the novelist. And it looked to have been made in the early 60s based on the black and white footage. And Baldwin says in this little short video, there may not be as much humanity as one would like, but there's enough. There's more than you would think. And what you've got to remember is whenever you're walking down the street and you see a person, that person could be you. You could be that person, and that person could be you. And you've got to decide if you want to be that wonderful person, that monstrous person, but that person could be you. Now, James Baldwin had the right to feel very bitter and resentful and humiliated by this country because of the way it had treated him because of his race and other things. But even then, he was willing to make the ultimate humanistic statement. That person could be you. You could be that person. Everybody you meet, that person could be you. And when I'm watching that video, the phrase that leapt out at me popped into my head was defiant humanism. Even in brutally harsh times, James Baldwin was willing to be defiantly humanist. And in a way, what we're seeing today on this stage is defiant humanism in action. So University of Michigan, I thank you for it. I'm glad to be back as part of your cult. And go Hoosiers.
That was a terrific way to end this day's preview program. David took us on a wonderful journey through some cultural turmoil that we're going through right now. And he talked about a cultural winter, but the earth will continue to travel around the sun, and what comes after winter is always spring. And I think he has given us a roadmap to how we can merge the humanistic nature that we have come to know and romanticism, and we will all emerge from this in a better place. And I want to thank everyone for being here. I want to thank Skip and Lisa and Debbie and our two students, Eric and Angelica, and our musical performers. This has been a wonderful afternoon. Thank you all for joining us on this, and I hope to see you out in the corridor for refreshments right after this. And contrary to the Hoosier comment there, forever go blue.